Hello and welcome everybody to a recording of the VITA training kickoff presentation. Thanks for being with us and taking some time to go through this presentation and kick off your VITA training journey. My name is Steve O'Neill. I'm the director of the VITA program at United Way of Lancaster County, and I am one piece of our three-person VITA administrative team. The second person is Jackie Ballou, who you all have gotten to know through volunteer recruitment and communicating with her to get to this point. And she's done a fabulous job of doing that. And the third piece of our team is Michelle Ingham, who is our program manager. And you'll start to see all three of us much more frequently now as we start VITA training and then get into tax season, where all three of us will frequently be out at VITA sites, rolling up our sleeves and helping you do tax returns. So again, thank you for being here. I started with the VITA program about 7 years ago and didn't necessarily think that I'd be sitting here recording this training 7 years later, but I really fell in love with the opportunity that tax time provides and the way in which taxes and even tax policy can be used to make people financially stronger and better able to compete in life. And I believe in the hope that taxes can create for folks that we serve, hope in taking advantage of the refunds that they get at tax time. And so that's why I'm still here. That's why I really believe in VITA, and that's why I fell in love with this program. So thank you, because I think that you share some of that sentiment, and that's why you're with us, and that's why you're watching that. So looking forward to being on that journey with you this year. Okay, let's get into the agenda for today. Going to give you another overview of the training. I know that you may have gotten an overview of what training looks like at the informational sessions, but I just want to go over that again. Also take a look at the scheduling software that we use and point out a couple things about scheduling for trainings and sites. And then we're going to get into a review of the materials that you'll use during training and a little bit about tax law. The point of this is to take about an hour here and give you the framework for training. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of trainings, there's a lot of materials, and the purpose of this is just to kind of help you wrap your mind around all of those things, because it can be overwhelming, but hopefully taking this time to show you what you have available to you will really help to kind of give you the framework to approach training with. Okay, so another overview of training, a couple expectations in regards to training. Do expect to spend some time on your own outside of classes that you might come to, time at home where you are reviewing or doing some learning on your own, even just kind of familiarizing yourself after you watch this presentation with some of the materials that you have available to you. I do recommend trying your best to come to the classroom trainings that we offer. They are quite helpful. They give you a chance to interact with other volunteers, both volunteers who are doing this for the first time, as well as some of our more seasoned volunteers. But they're quite helpful. So the way we approach this is kind of a two-pronged approach. The first is we need to teach you how to do the tax law side of things and the theory. And we do that in November and December. And then the second approach is we need to teach you how to use the software that we use to actually go ahead and do the tax return. So this is more of the practical or applied side of things. And we do that in December and January. So definitely recommend coming to both of those things. It will help. Trust that this will get easier. probably seems overwhelming right now. I know if I rewind the clock 7 years and go back to when I was first starting, it was incredibly overwhelming. But trust that it will get easier. The next couple months getting through training is definitely the biggest hurdle. But if you persist and just kind of get through it, it gets a lot easier and a lot more fun once we get into January and start doing taxes. So stick with it. And lastly, nothing is mandatory. We do record everything. If you're watching this video, this is a great example. We will have recordings uploaded to YouTube that you can watch, and you'll also have materials that we give you to be able to spend time at home, kind of just doing a review on your own. A couple tips for success. Stay positive. I know it's easy to say, but stay positive and keep your motivation in mind. And the motivation is to get into January and start being able to really have a pretty cool impact on people, helping them get refunds and helping them save a ton of money, and being able to see that impact and the work that you put in training really pay off. So try and stay positive. Don't memorize anything. We don't expect you to memorize anything that we are teaching you. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of kind of theory and laws, and too much to keep straight for anybody. So what we preach is get good at problem solving, get good at solving puzzles, and get familiar with the resources that you have available to you, and be able to hunt down information. And lastly, ask for help early and often. It is our job and mission to get you from today, when you're watching this, to doing taxes. And lastly, VITA is not your typical volunteer experience. It takes a lot of effort to get to the point where you actually end up volunteering. There's a lot of training to get through, a lot to learn, but it pays off in a big way. And when you can sit with somebody for an hour and help them get their refund and save the amount of money that they save, and be able to see that right in front of you, see that impact happen right in front of you within an hour, it's a really good feeling. So looking forward to helping you get there. Okay, overview of the tax law side of things. So we have our two-pronged approach: tax law and software. This is the tax law side of things. We have 5 classes coming up over the next 5 or 6 weeks. The first class will be on filing status and dependency. The second class will be on income and how to do local returns. The third class will be on deductions and credits. The fourth on state Pennsylvania taxes and the Affordable Care Act. And then the fifth class is on advanced topics. There are 2 certification options for volunteers. One is basic, one is advanced. If you will be pursuing the basic certification, which we recommend for first-year volunteers, then there's no reason to come to the advanced topics section. That's only if you plan to go for your basic certification. Each class is going to be about 3 hours, and they are typically offered on Tuesday mornings from 9 to 12, or on Thursday evenings from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The only exception is the week where the Tuesday is November 6th. That's election day, so we're not holding a training on November 6th. Instead, the morning training of that week will be held on Thursday, November 8th at 9 a.m., and the evening training that week will be held on, again, November 8th in the evening, 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. But otherwise, the other weeks are done on a Tuesday morning, Thursday evening basis. And we will record everything, send everything out after the training, all the materials and handouts, as well as a link to a recording of the training. Okay, second prong of our approach is the software training. And we start with an introduction to the software where we really kind of guide you and teach you how to use it. If anything is mandatory, this would be the most. I know we say nothing's mandatory. This one is really, really recommended that you get to one of these introductions to the tech software. It'll be about 2.5 hours. We're going to do these over at Hack in their computer labs. And we're going to try and split up into more of a fast-paced and a slow-paced room. The faster-paced room will, they'll move at a faster pace, and the slower-paced room will just get a little bit more detailed, step by step. So think about your computer skills and your ease of kind of maneuvering on a computer as we get close to those, because that's how we will have you break yourselves up. And during these sessions, we're going to complete 2 practice returns, kind of guiding you through the returns so you get a feel for the software. We have a couple of these introductions in December and a couple in January, so you can consult your training schedule for those dates. Okay, sticking with the software side of things, in January we will have a full week of what we call open sessions, which will be a couple hours to come in and practice returns, work on taking your certification exam. We'll have lots of experienced volunteers and staff there to be able to answer your questions and work on things with you. So I think that there are 6 of these, and you can come to as many as you want, get as much practice as you want. In addition to these open sessions, each day during the week of January 7th, we're gonna host a mini session on some different topics that we don't typically get to cover in our tax law training. So these can be quite helpful, but they're totally optional, and they will be recorded for you if you're not able to get to them. So we'll be sending more information out about when these will be offered soon. Okay, quick overview of the scheduling software. I know that Jackie has gotten most people registered and into the volunteer scheduling portal that we use. I'm just going to take a minute here and go onto the website just to point out a couple things. So here's the login page for the volunteer portal. I'm going to go ahead and log myself in, and just pointing out a couple things here. First of all, when you're coming on here to register for trainings, and eventually when you're coming on to sign yourself up to volunteer at a VITA site for tax prep, you're going to do that in the full schedules tab, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the full schedules. And one of the biggest questions we get when using this software is that the calendars only show October, November, and December, so they're not showing January. How do we get into January to be able to sign up for those January training sessions? So the answer is right in the top month here, and in October, there are 2 little arrows on either side of where it says October 2018. If I click on the one on the right hand side, that's just going to bump me forward, and now I can see January's schedule here. So as I keep clicking the arrow, it keeps bumping up. So it just shows 3 months, but we can navigate through the months using the arrows. To sign up for the shifts that you want to sign up for, you want to click on the date that you want to attend, and list of all the open spots will appear. Now, the thing to be careful of here is make sure you take a look at the header. So the first one listed here is the 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. training on November 8th. And as I scroll down, I end up at the 5:30 session. So when we have multiple trainings on a single date or multiple sites open on a single date, you will see a list of all the options. So you're going to want to make sure that you're signing up for the one you actually want to attend. And once you find that, you can go ahead and click on the Volunteer Now to get yourself signed up. A little dialog box will pop up. Please don't put any comments in there. We do not check them. And just go ahead and hit Volunteer Now. And you should see your name appear, although mine did not show up there, so it must have. There I am. My name looks like maybe it's in alphabetical order. So there's my name popped up. If I wanted to cancel, I can just hit the cancel button and hit cancel assignment. For training, please do sign up for trainings. It helps us prepare with materials and food and things like that. For once we get into tax season and you sign up for shifts to volunteer for, if you need to cancel shifts within about a week of that shift happening, please do let somebody know in addition to canceling yourself. The site coordinator is your best bet there. But for trainings, if you need to cancel, you don't necessarily need to let us know that. We just need a rough estimate of who's coming. And last thing to point out on here, the My Schedule tab will give you a list of all of the trainings and volunteer shifts you have signed up for. I'm not signed up for any right now, so I don't have any there. And the My Profile tab is going to allow you to update your preferences, your name, the phone number that you want us to use. Please do put your address in there also, and your email addresses. And if you have multiple emails that you want us to use, you can throw them all in there and just separate them with a comma. Okay. Let me see if I can get back to our slides here. Okay. All right, a couple other things scheduling at sites. When we get into tax season, we do expect you to come up with a regular schedule. For instance, every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Tuesday and Thursday, but signing up for regular shifts throughout the season. So tax season is 12 weeks long. We encourage you, if we use the Tuesday example, if you're going to volunteer every Tuesday evening, please sign up for that Tuesday shift from January all the way through April when you go ahead and sign in. That's not to say that if you have a trip, you have a work thing, you can't be there one or two nights. That is not an issue. We can definitely work around that, but it is really helpful to have some consistency at our sites that we can expect. So we have an expectation of how many volunteers we're going to have, which tells us how many clients we can schedule. The process of signing up for your sites will happen in December and hopefully will be completed by the second week in January. That'll allow you to know which site orientation to go to in mid-January. And you're not limited to one site. We have plenty of people that volunteer at 2 or 3 different locations. Maybe on a Tuesday they go to one site and on a Thursday they go to another site. We also have some Saturday sites. And we also do some blitz days, which is where we go somewhere where we don't typically have a recurring location and just try and do as many taxes as we can in one day. So we'll be sending out information about things like that. All right, now we're going to talk about your materials. You may or may not have these as you're watching this presentation. So I'm going to kind of give you a high-level look at what these are and how they're helpful. And then once you have them, you can go back and reference this presentation. There's also an accompanying handout that was sent in the email with the link to this video that is called the VITA Training Guide, and it's just a single sheet outlining the different materials that you have available to you, so you can consult that attachment on the email. The first publication or material that we will give to you is the volunteer manual, or the volunteer guide. That's a picture of the cover of the guide there. This is something that we put together ourselves based on lots of feedback from volunteers over the years, things that are going to be helpful to you. There's a lot of information in here, and it's kind of centered on 3 different categories. One is kind of procedural stuff, like what the flow of a tax appointment looks like, and what the flow of doing a tax return is. There's also a lot of information here on tax law. So what are the rules? And then the third piece of information that's in here is information on dealing with TaxSlayer. So it contains all 3 of those kind of general categories in this guide. The cover provides you space to write down your username and passwords. You're going to end up with a couple different username and passwords for different websites that we use within VITA. So I encourage you to let that be kind of a centralized location for you to keep them. When you do get this, I would recommend taking a couple minutes and paging through. There are going to be five different tabs in this guide, and just go through the tabs and see the information that's in there. Like I said, we don't expect you to memorize it, but knowing where to go to find answers is key. So taking a couple minutes to review what's in here, I think will give you a better sense of what VITA's like, and what you're going to end up doing, and will also just be good so that you start to understand where some of this information lies. Okay, the second publication that you will receive is called IRS Publication 4012. And we talk about this guide a lot, and typically just refer to it as the 4012. So the 4012, the 4012, the 4012. You'll hear it a lot. Once you get this, you'll understand why. It has a lot of really useful information. It comes from the IRS, so it is just federal tax law. Unfortunately, there's no state or local information in this guide, but it is very, very useful and helpful to you. So when you get this, this will go into your binder, and it will be one of the things that you take with you to all of the trainings, as well as every time you volunteer at a VITA site. We're waiting patiently for this book from the IRS. Usually we have it by about now. Unfortunately, with the tax law changes, there's been some delay. We're not 100% sure when we'll get this, but as soon as we do, we will get it to you. Now, that being said, we're going to reference a lot of the information in the 4012 during our tax law trainings. So what we're going to do until you have the book in hand is we're going to print the pages that we're going to reference and that are going to be helpful for you. We'll print those out and hand them out at every training so that you're getting a feel for what's in there, and seeing the information that's in there. This resource is also available and is updated online as a PDF. You can simply go onto Google and search IRS Pub 4012. and get a link to that. Okay, the next one, which you will receive at the first training that you attend, is publication 4491. I'm sorry for all the numbers. The IRS is not the most creative body in the world. They just title things with numbers. So we have the 4012 and now the 4491. You can think of this as your textbook for tax law training. It's going to have all the information in there that we cover in trainings, so it will be a really helpful resource to review before or after coming to classroom trainings, or if you can't make it to a training, you have this book to learn what we covered in training. And I'm going to reference back to the attachment that was in the email called the VITA Training Guide. At the top of that attachment, you will see a chart listing the 5 trainings that we have, and the chapters in the 4491 that go along with each training, as well as the tabs in the 4012 that go along with each training, so that you know what we'll be covering in class, and so you can either take a look beforehand, take a look after, or if you can't make it, so you know which chapters to go ahead and cover on your own. And again, that chart is on the attachment. It was attached to the email with the link to this video. The title of the attachment is VITA Training Guide, and it's just a one-page handout with the chart of the classes at the top, and then the description of the 4 books that you'll get at the bottom. Okay, talk a little bit about the certification exam that you will eventually take. This is a screenshot of the homepage where you will eventually log in and input your answers for the certification exam. The other thing that you'll find on this webpage are some additional resources like practice questions and some lessons on the different things that we'll be talking about. Feel free to check those out, and if you find them helpful, go ahead and utilize them. But we'll be talking a little bit more about how to go ahead and take your tests and do the certification process in the future. The last book that you're going to get, the last piece of material that you'll get from us, you'll get at the first training that you attend. This is another form number, publication 6744, otherwise known as the test, the certification exam. So this is the paper copy of the test, and it's broken down into 3 sections. We have the standards of conduct. I just usually refer to them as the ethics. And then we have intake and interview, and then you would either do the basic course or the advanced course. And what we encourage you to do is use the paper test to actually do your test. So you would read the questions in here, you'd answer the questions in here, and complete the entire test. And then we would send you to the certification webpage to input the answers to the test. And the way the test on the paper version is broken up, they break it up into what they call a test and a retest. You can just kind of think of that as test 1 and test 2, or test A and test B. And test 1 and test 2 are very similar. They just kind of change the wording of the questions. So we encourage everybody to answer all of the questions in test 1, all of the questions in test 2, and then go and log in to the certification website and enter your answers. The reason we do that is because when you enter your answers online, it's going to take about half of the questions from test 1, half from test 2. So as long as you have everything already figured out, it'll be a quick and easy transplant of your answers from the paper version into the electronic version. Okay, intake sheet overview. Another of the attachments to the email that you got with a link to this video had an attachment to the intake sheet. And intake sheet looks like this. This is what clients fill out immediately upon entering the VITA site and before sitting down with their tax preparer. So this is really just to give you a sense of what that looks like, so that when you show up to volunteer your first day, you're not seeing this for the first time. This is something that is meant to start a conversation with the client. They will fill it out, they'll give it to you, but it doesn't mean that everything on here is correct. It's meant to start a conversation and to really just kind of review it with the client, going down through all the information that they provide to you. So I'd encourage you just to get a sense of what's on there, what type of questions they ask, and how it's going to be useful to you. A third attachment in the email with this video was job aid for the intake sheet. And in that attachment, in that document, they do a really nice job of explaining each piece of information that's provided here on this intake sheet and why it's important to you, how it's relevant to the tax return. So I'd encourage you to also go ahead and review that job aid for the intake sheet. Okay, briefly wanted to just provide a quick overview of tax law. I know everybody has been hearing a lot about the changes in the tax code, and then the new tax bill that was passed that's taking effect for 2018, so will affect the tax returns that we work on. So just wanted to provide a couple kind of high-level updates there. Here's some common tax terminology that we use, and couple of things to point out about what's changed and that affects VITA clients. The first one is the standard deduction has doubled this year. Last year it was $6,350 and $12,700 for single versus married filing joint returns. This year you have $12,000 deduction for single people and $24,000 deduction for married filing joint folks. And that's because the standard deduction doubled, because there are now no more exemptions. There are no more personal exemptions, nor are there dependency exemptions. So the standard deduction doubled to kind of account for losing the deductions. The other thing that doubled is the child tax credit. Previously, you could get $1,000 per child, and in 2018, the child tax credit has doubled to $2,000 per child, with up to $1,400 of that as a refundable tax credit. And then there's a new credit they kind of added into this, and that is a $500 non-refundable credit called the credit for other dependents. So we'll get into more of these things in training, the difference between refundable credits versus non-refundable credits, and more about the child tax credit and who qualifies. But it's kind of a high-level update on what happened there. A couple other ones. In regards to alimony, the alimony that you paid in previous years could be deducted on your tax return, and any alimony that you receive has to be reported as income. Now, For the tax returns that we will be working on for 2018, that still applies. Alimony you receive is taxable. Alimony you pay is deductible. But starting for divorce agreements that are made after January 1st, 2019, alimony is neither deductible nor reportable as income. So the reason we're telling you this is people may ask about it. But as far as we're concerned, we will approach that the same way as we always have. Alimony is taxable and deductible for the 2018 returns. Another change is a change in medical expenses that can be used to itemize your deductions. The threshold to start taking medical expenses is now 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. So if you have medical expenses that are more than 7.5% of your AGI, you can take as a deduction whatever's over 7.5% of your AGI. In previous years, it had gone up to 10% of your AGI, so it's now at 7.5%. Okay, the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is still in effect, and the mandate to have health insurance is still in effect, and the penalty that you get if you don't have health insurance is still in effect. So for tax returns that we do, that all still applies for 2018. Starting next year, that's when the mandate goes away. That's when the penalty goes away. So we may get clients coming in who say that they thought that the Affordable Care Act is out or Obamacare is done, but that's not the case. Everything still applies to the 2018 returns, including the penalty if you do not have health insurance. Okay, so that was just kind of a high-level look at some of the changes. We will get into those in much more detail in training. Also wanted to provide you with the new 1040 form. And so here's the new 1040. We included it as an attachment in the email. And it looks a little bit different. If you're familiar with 1040s, it definitely looks different than 1040s in past years. It's about half the size. Not quite a postcard, but definitely getting close. So it looks a little bit different. There's the front, there's the back, and that's on a half sheet of paper. So you'll notice that a lot of lines are missing from the old 1040, and what they did was really just take those lines and create new forms for those lines. So they've added schedules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to account for those missing lines. So all of the information all the lines still exist. They just exist in different places than they used to. The good thing for us is that TaxSlayer knows where to put it and will do it all for us. It will be good to kind of understand these forms, but when you plug a number into TaxSlayer knows where it goes and will do that for us. Okay. All right, just kind of finishing up here. Contact information you will find on the back of your binder, the very back cover of the binder has our contact information. Jackie, Michelle, myself, all of our email addresses are there. You'll notice that we share the same phone number. That's a cell phone that we keep as an on-call phone, so one of us will always answer that. Feel free to contact us for any questions that come up throughout training and, throughout tax season. So you'll always be able to get us at that number. You can also text us there. Check out our YouTube channel. That's where this video is posted. It's also where videos in the future from training will be posted. You can get onto YouTube and just search Lancaster VITA, and you'll get our page. We also have a Facebook page at VITA Lanc. Follow us or like us, and share stuff that we post, especially when we get into tax season. That's very helpful. Okay, that's all the slides that we have for you. Thank you again for taking the time here to be with us and checking this video out. Thank you for taking the time to invest in the VITA program and invest in the community. When I say our, Jackie, Michelle, and I, our mission is to make this a successful venture for you. We want you to enjoy it. We want you to have fun. So please come to us with any questions or issues as they come up, and enjoy this. You will really make an impact in Lancaster, and for a lot of people that you get a chance to meet and work with. So thank you. That's all for now, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.